Right, looks like we've got everybody. So thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our webinar tonight. Sorry for the slightly delayed start there and the slight technical problems we had. So thank you for joining us. Just a very short bit of housekeeping just to start off with. So you'll all find yourselves muted, but we look to take questions later on, and we'll obviously help with unmuting you at that stage. Please do send us your questions throughout. You'll find the chat is disabled, but the Q&A function, which you'll find along the bottom of your screen, is there. So please do send your questions in throughout, and we'll obviously try and get to as many of those as we possibly can at the end. If you have any technical problems, I'm here on hand throughout. So if you have any problems, can't hear, can't see, or anything like that, just pop us a note through the Q&A, and as I say, I'll be there to help. But otherwise, wish you a fantastic event, and I'll pass over to Hino.
Thanks, Simon. Could we do the poll now to start with to get an idea of numbers?
Of course, yeah, just launch that for you. Bear with me. So just let the audience members know. So we'll be launching a poll to you very shortly. Oh no, that's the test poll. Apologies. Let's do the correct one. Okay, so hopefully you should see a poll pop up on your screen. So if we just ask you to submit your answers to that, we'll give you about 30 seconds to do so. So what we're asking, statement is, I have considered hiring apprentices for my business. Do you strongly agree, neither agree nor disagree, disagree, or strongly disagree? Okay, I think we've got most of the audience have sent their responses in. Okay, fantastic. So I think that's most people. So just to quickly go through it then. So the vast majority strongly agree. We have 53% of our audience tonight who strongly agree. We then have 20% who agree, and then 27% that neither agree nor disagree. Nobody disagrees or strongly disagrees.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so this is an opportunity that will be suitable for all our members. So whether you've thought about apprenticeships before or not. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Hinal. I'm a learning and development pharmacist. So I'm involved in creating courses, developing them, improving student support, all with you in mind. So it's nice to have so many of you here today. And I'm very excited to introduce Alistair from Qube Learning, who we have partnered with, and we'll be going through the details of this new opportunity. So this webinar will be available on demand, so you feel free to take screenshots if you wish, but it's available for you to watch again. Let's go through the overview of the webinar. So Alistair will detail how you can save thousands of pounds with bare minimum paperwork. He'll go over what apprenticeships are, what exactly we're offering in our new package, which is the Pharmacy Retail Apprenticeship, and how this will benefit you. You'll also find out about government incentives, timelines, and how fast you need to act to make the most of the incentives, as well as what you need to do next and who you need to contact. So, Alistair, if I can pass it over to you.
You know, good evening, everybody. So the main point of this evening is to look at how you can save money, time, and training, benefit from training. I've put the money up there first. I talked to a lot of people about this, and people talk about, how can we access funded learning? And then you very soon come around to the conversation about, but can't we save some money? So let's not be shy about it. I've put an example up here, and I put a figure of £8,270. And that is an estimate, or one example, of how much money you can save per person in the first year of taking somebody on as an apprentice, as opposed to taking them on as an assistant. So the example I've labelled here is approximately the first year cost of an employing an assistant is 19,000 quid. This assumes that they do 40 hours a week on the normal minimum wage of £8.20 an hour. You have your employer's national insurance contribution. You then put them through the two mandatory courses. And I put in a nominal figure for recruitment. If instead of taking somebody on as an assistant, you decide to take somebody on as an apprentice pharmacy assistant, the cost is dramatically reduced. Okay, first and foremost, you have the opportunity to pay below the normal minimum wage. Okay, you can actually, the apprentice minimum wage is currently £4.15 an hour. Now, I don't recommend that to anybody. You might not get the right person, you might not get anyone at that rate. What we have discovered is that about £6 an hour works very well. And this, as you see, produces quite a significant saving. Additionally, and we'll come to the government incentives, in this example here, there is a £2,000 incentive payment from the government. You won't pay employers' national insurance because you don't pay that on any apprentice under the age of 25 earning less than £40,000 a year. In this case, because the example I'm using here is somebody aged 24, there's a £250 recruitment fee, but that is zero if the apprentice is under 19, and the 2 NPA courses are provided for free, as indeed is an employment contract, job spec, and so on and so forth. So in terms of the money shot, which we put in first, that is what you're looking at in the first year per person. We can move to the next slide here. So what we've got here is 2 examples. So this is a full-time assistant, minimum wage. This person leaves, you replace with an apprentice, age 24, on the same hours. Okay. There are 2 kinds of benefit to the business. The first is financial. So you will save about £4,500 by paying £6 an hour, and you will get good people at £6 an hour. You're not paying employers' national insurance, which you would have to at that age range. You will get a government incentive of £2,000 for that person. So the total cash benefit is about £7,700. In addition to that, the apprenticeship training is fully funded by the government or by levy donations, and I'll come to that in a moment. The NPA course is funded through this program, so you get funded benefits of a little over £4,000, which means that in the first year, you're about £11,500 or so to the better. Okay, Hina. So let's talk a little bit about what an apprenticeship is, some of the backgrounds, and I'd like to dispel 1 or 2 of the myths. First and foremost, it's a training program that combines practical training with work. The training element doesn't necessarily take place 1 day a week as it used to. It can happen at any time. It's delivered by tutors, normally on a one-to-one basis, or under COVID, it can be done remotely. And it's at a time to suit the employer and the apprentice. Apprentices are employees. They earn a wage, they get holiday pay, they're entitled to pension benefits, and they work alongside experienced staff, one of whom will be responsible for mentoring them. And what they gain is job-specific skills, and they learn skills, knowledge, and behaviours. And this is where they differ slightly from academic qualifications. The emphasis is much more on skills and behaviours. So an apprentice can be anyone. As long as you're not in full-time education, you can be at any age and at any stage of your career. In fact, some of you may be aware that the average apprentice is in their 30s or their 40s. They're doing a foundation degree in a subject, and they will have been with their employer for more than a year. So apprentices aren't just young people coming into the workplace. Most of the funding these days goes to experienced staff looking to do high-level qualifications. And these qualifications range from level 2, which is this particular one, up to level 7, which is a master's degree level. And there are about 450 different apprenticeships that people can do. Okay. So something that I've talked to some of you about already is government incentives. So there are 2 or 3 kinds of government incentive. I'll clear the first one out of the way, which isn't listed here. And this relates to employers' national insurance. So all employers have to pay employers' national insurance on any employee who is over the age of 21. And that rate is, I think, something like 13.8%. No national insurance, no employer's national insurance is paid for an employee who is under the age of 25, earning less than £40,000 a year. So that 21 goes up to 25, and under £40,000 a year, there is no liability. So it's a big cost saving to employers. And we come to the 2 main incentives, and I say 2. There was one that has been around for about 3 years, and that is that, and both of these now relate to anybody joining the business. So historically, if somebody joined the business and they were under the age of 19, as long as they join and enroll on their course before their 19th birthday, the government would give you £1,000. That still stands. In addition to that, and this is from the Richie Sunak budget over the summer, from the 1st of August of this year to the 31st of January next year, if you take on an apprentice under the age of 25, the government will give you £2,000. And if that person is over 25, they will give you £1,500. And what that means is, if you take somebody under the age of 19, they get both the £2,000 and the £1,000, so you'll get £3,000. This is paid in 2 halves. Both of them, they're separate payments. The first half for each payment arrives after 90 days. So as long as the person is still on program after 90 days, you'll get half of that. And after 360 days, you'll get the second half of it. There's a slight variation in how you receive that money. The original payment of £1,000 will come through your training provider, which in this case is Qube Learning. The other government incentive will come directly to you, and that will be orchestrated by your digital account, which we'll talk about later on. Okay. So let's take a look at the package. So there's a fair bit in it. It occurred to us last year that there are an awful lot of benefits out there that companies can access, but they from lots of different quarters, both from ourselves, from the NPA, from the government, from levy donors, and so on and so forth. But it just occurred to us that nobody's really put all this together and presented it in a package and said, okay, all of this you can have, no strings attached. So we have a role-specific job specification which details everything that a pharmacy assistant will do. We have a sister company, Qube Talent, and they will provide a free recruitment service for anybody joining your business before their 19th birthday. And it's £250 after their 19th birthday. This is very much however you want to play it. So we have a team of people now who will advertise, vet the response, provide a shortlist, send you the information, and they will happily arrange interviews, second interviews, agree terms, sort out the start date and check them in, or whatever you wish them to do. If you simply say, look, send me CVs of those that are interested, they're happy to do that also. And you can just rely on this, or you can use this in conjunction with your own efforts to find people. There's no obligation. If you choose not to take anybody, then that's absolutely fine as well. Okay. You also get fully funded tuition. And the cost of this covers all of the assessment and qualification as well. And this is done face-to-face by a tutor who will visit them in their place of work, normally every 4 to 5 weeks. Okay, this is funded in a couple of different ways. For large organisations with a wage bill of more than £3 million a year, they will access their levy pot, which is a sum of money that they pay with their PAYE every month to the government. The government gives it back to them. They have 2 years to use it on apprenticeship training. And if they don't use it, it goes back to the government. Or for smaller organisations, historically, the government would pay 95%, and you would pay the remaining balance of 5%, which in the case of this course would be about £200. What we are now allowed to do is access other people's levy pots. So you have lots of large organisations that don't use or won't have the ability to use their money. Rather than return it to the government, they're allowed to donate up to 25% of it. And some of these organisations have literally hundreds of thousands of pounds or millions of pounds sitting there that can be donated to smaller organisations. They get the corporate social responsibility, they get that happy, ready brek feeling about it, but they would lose the money anyway if they didn't donate it. We have quite a number of organisations that we do work for that will happily donate this. You get your free GPHC accredited NPA courses. You get the NPA are providing you with an apprenticeship employment contract. This differs slightly from a normal employment contract because the terms under which an apprentice is employed is slightly different. First and foremost, once an apprentice has finished their course as an employer, you are no longer under any obligation at all to retain them if you don't wish to. And literally the day that they wave their certificate in the air and they've passed is technically the day that they walk out with no further recompense. However, the vast majority, well over 90% of employers having invested time, money and effort in training people, wish to retain them. That's the first thing about it. The second point is they are often fixed term contracts, which can be extended if you wish to. And there's probably a couple of other differences, but you've got access to that without sort of labouring all the points. You also, it means you don't have to pay national insurance on the person that you've taken on. You have access to a lower wage rate if that's applicable in your area, and we have done lots and lots of these even in London, and £6 an hour seems to work quite well even there. And of course you get the cash back, which is up to £3,000, which the government will give you quite happily for taking an apprentice on. Okay. So there are two elements to this. The first element is the retail apprenticeship. Okay, and what we've done is we've put the two together, and Hina will talk about the NPA aspect of this in a moment. The retail apprenticeship it's highly applicable to your business. Again, and I can't stress this enough, it isn't just about knowledge, it's about skills, it's about behavior, it's about understanding. And I've listed here all of the different aspects to it. And for anybody who would like, I can send you a link to the Institute for Apprentices page on this, and it will talk through every component of business and customer service and finance and communications and so on and so forth, you know, particularly technology and the legal and governance side of it. And it will go through what they're going to learn, where they become competent, and how that will benefit the business as an employer. So within this, the tutor will visit about every 4 to 5 weeks. This visit will take 2 or 3 hours. They will provide all of the course materials, which are accessible currently through an online system, which we are in the process of changing. It's Canvas which is the same system that the NPA use for their course. The time frames, so an apprenticeship can take anywhere between 1 and 5 years. In this particular instance, it's 12 to 15 months. It's a 12-month course, but we allow extra time because other things might come into play. For instance, that person should be prepared for what we call gateway, which I'll come to in a moment, comfortably within that time. However, it might take a couple of months before Sitting Guilds, or in this case, it's OAL, will get around to doing an assessment. So the assessments are done independently by a separate organisation. We can't obviously mark our own homework. Other reasons are if people joining the scheme don't have the appropriate grade, which is a C or a level 4 in maths and English, they don't have the certificates, we will give them a skills assessment. If they don't pass that skills assessment, we will provide a tutor that will bring them up to scratch in maths and or English, or parts of maths and English, depending on how they do in their assessment. That is funded by the government through the adult education budget. It sits alongside of this, and it might mean that they might take another month to get over the line. The tutor will be there. They will monitor their progress. As an employer, you will get a report. You can have a report every month if you like, on where they are up to against where they are targeted to be at that rate. They will coach them. They'll provide feedback. They will mentor them. They are there on the phone, on email when they need to. They provide all the information they need, and they will keep the employer abreast of where that person is up to. There is also an issue of 20% off the job training, and this is the quid pro quo. And the government insists that as an employee, they are given time to learn and to study. Okay, and everybody in the industry calls this 20% off. Okay, historically, when people did an apprentice, they did 1 day a week, day release at college. These days, they are always in their place of work, and that 20% is a lot more flexible. So it could be, for some employees, they might do most of that in their first month. In terms of their induction, they might do most of it in the last month. They might do chunks in the middle, or it might be an hour and a half each day or something like that. They will keep a book and they will log everything that is included within this. So this will be tutor visits, it will be doing coursework, it will be reading around their subject, it will be attending meetings at work that are relevant to their course, it will be meetings, it will be reading, reflecting, practicing stuff. We can provide you with a list of everything that can be included in that, and as long as that tops up to 20% at the end of it, they're absolutely fine. And for anyone's interested, I think on the 28th, ESFA, the Education Skills Funding Agency, is running a seminar on what constitutes 20% off the job, and I can arrange details of that to anybody. At that point, the tutor will prepare them for what we call gateway. This is where they finish their course. They then go to be assessed. As I said, this is done by an independent body. And about 95% of people, or something like that, will pass their assessment. Okay. Then they will come back, and then they've qualified, and then they will either become a full-time employee, or you can finish their contract there and then. The only thing I would add to that, which people will ask, is what if they don't pass their endpoint assessment? Well, you do occasionally get some people that don't. As an employer, you have a choice. You can ask them to resit it, in which case there will be an endpoint assessment charge. Now, endpoint assessments are broken down into various sections, and it would be very, very unusual indeed if somebody didn't pass anything. Principally, they would not be allowed to go to gateway until we'd be fairly confident they were going to pass. the most important thing for us as a provider is that people pass. It's something that the government looks at us, and Ofsted, and we're regulated by Ofsted, is something they look very keenly at. So we're very reluctant to put anybody through to endpoint assessment unless we're fairly convinced they're going to pass. If they don't, they can retake it. As an employer, you would have to fund that, or you can decide, no, they've had their chance, that's the end of that. You're under no obligation to. You can retain them as an employee thereafter, or not, as you see fit. The NPA element of this won't come into, won't matter. They're still free to carry on with that and complete that in their own time. You know.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just go over the NPA courses. So you may already be familiar with our courses, but if not, you can find more information about them on the website. So I'll just explain what they entail just briefly. But as part of this package, the apprentice will be enrolled onto both courses, the Medicines Counter Assistant course and the Accredited Dispensing Assistants course. And they'll be enrolled at approximately 6 weeks into the program. So essentially by the end of the 12 months, you will have a dispensary assistant that's trained in both courses. So the courses cover over-the-counter medications for common conditions, dispensing, stock control, pharmacy practice and procedures, law and ethics, and drug tariff. Both courses will be completed online via the NPA Learning Academy, which uses the platform Canvas, as Alistair has already explained. And both courses must be complete within 12 months of starting. Now, we advise that the apprentice starts the Medicine Counters Assistant course first, as this is generally the quicker course. It's marked online, it's all multiple choice questions, so it's marked automatically. And this will help them ease into the role, and they can start using the skills that they learn in the retail apprenticeship. And then after completing the first module, they can move on to the dispensary course. So you can find more information on how to actually approach this in the FAQs that we have on our website. Now, you may be wondering what a retail apprenticeship has to do with pharmacy. So it will reinforce customer service and communication skills, which I'm sure you would agree is an essential part of the dispensary assistant's role. The apprenticeship will also reinforce how to deliver a sales service to meet the needs of your patients, how to maintain stock and minimize stock loss and basic stock control, plus several ways to drive business objectives. Remember, you're not just getting a dispensary assistant at the end of this, you're getting someone who will have retail knowledge, and this can be a real asset to your business. So I'll just hand it over to Alistair, who will go over the timelines and the next steps.
Okay, thank you, Hino. The government incentives run until the 31st of January next year. All of the other benefits that we've talked about, those will carry on, but the £2,000 and the £1,500, depending on the age of the person you decide to take on, that is due to finish on the 31st of January next year. I think it's going to be quite tens of thousands of people are taking this up across the country. So it's going to be quite expensive for the government, and I can't see them extending this. So if you do decide, if somebody's left or if you want an additional person, either you want to replace or add, that person needs to have started and be enrolled by the 31st of January. Now, in between now and then, we've got Christmas, and December is a notoriously bad month for recruitment. So if you want Qube talent to help with recruitment, I would warmly suggest that within the next 3-4 weeks would be a good time to jump. That gives us enough time to go out and find people, for you to assess them, take them on, get them started, and get them enrolled. Okay, if you leave it until the new year, everybody's going to have to move really, really fast to meet that deadline. It's not the end of the world, but it's 2,000 quid or so that you'll never get back. Okay. The other thing that we will need to do is you will need to set up a digital apprenticeship service account. Okay, we call this a DAS account. Historically, only the large levy payers that we talked about before, the very large organisations, use these, and that is an account that the government used to put funds back for them to spend on apprenticeship. It's not real money, but it turns up looking like real money. You can only spend it on one thing. In order to access the levy donations, so in order for large organisations to give you the money to pay for your courses, you'll need to set this account up with ESFA, and we can show you how to do it. It takes about 10 minutes. I know some of you have already done it, and you'll have to have that set up. You'll also need that to have been set up in order for the government to see your apprentices and to provide your incentive payments at a timely point. Okay, so you'll need to do this. It doesn't take very long, and we have video links to some stuff that ESFA has produced. This is up on YouTube, and it takes you through the whole thing. So those are two things you'll need to do straight away. We also incidentally have to do something called a service level agreement, and this is something that sits between every provider and every employer, and it just details both of our obligations to the student, and it keeps ESFA and Ofsted happy. Okay, so we'll get that set up. When it comes to enrolment, we will do a skills assessment for everybody. That's funded separately if they need AB funding for that. So that will happen in the space of a few days. All you'll need to do is, once it's set up, is just approve that information on your digital account, which means say, yes, these are the people, this is the course we want to train them. That's done, it's quite easy. Once you get used to using your DAS account, it's quite simple. Okay. The NPA will provide you with an apprenticeship employment contract, and that's been developed by their legal advisors. So just to recap, the first thing, if you're interested at all in this and you want to move forward, we will need some basic information from you. My contact details are on the website. I think they'll be in here. You come to me with the basic information of what you want. We can have a conversation around that. We can get the ball rolling within about 48 hours. And within a couple of weeks, you should be able to have people. Okay. So once that's set up, we will enroll them normally within a week or two onto their apprenticeship, and they will start within 3 months. They will start their NPA courses. The reason we don't do the whole lot together is because for many of these people that we've done already, it's their first full-time job. It's a brand new company. It's a brand new role. It's a new apprenticeship. It's a new way of learning for a lot of people. There's an awful lot to take in. And if you bombard with them too much, they're going to propensity to fall over. So we get them bedded in, we make sure they're happy, they're on track, they're comfortable with everything, and then we give them the NPA courses after that. But they have longer, if you like, to complete those. Those don't have to be completed by the end of the course. At the end of the year, they complete their apprenticeship, they've completed their courses. You can then take them on board as a full-time employee on a permanent contract, or not, as the case may be. Throughout all of this, you'll have one point of contact. For now, that's going to be me. And I'll hand you back to Heenal.
Thank you. So just before we do the questions and answers, and I've got Alistair's email address there, and also where you can find the information on the website and his phone number. Just before we do the Q&A, we're just going to, I'll just hand you over to Anil Sharma, who is on our board, a board member, and at the moment is chair of the board, who's had first-hand experience of this, dealing with Qube and also employing apprentices. So he's going to say a few words when you're ready, Anil.
Thanks, Heenal. Hopefully everyone can see me and hear me. So I'm a board member for East Anglia, and I'm also community pharmacy owner. So I'm like a lot of you attendees. I've been using Qube to help me recruit apprentices. Since before I used Qube, I used a variety of local colleges and establishments. And to be very honest, they were not very good at finding the right level of person that we need in pharmacy to work and deal with the general public, and even basic things like using a computer very well and standing for 8 hours a day. I found some of the apprentices that I tried to recruit myself found it very tough to work in a pharmacy environment. So with Qube, the benefits I've had is essentially they hold your hand through the process. So we as pharmacists are very time poor, and reading through lots of materials and jargon, we just don't simply have the time for it. Well, I don't anyway. So they were very helpful in recruiting apprentices. They telephoned everyone who applied. They helped me write the adverts very well. They put them on the right forums, so we had good people apply. They also then telephoned each individual so I didn't have to telephone them all first, and only gave me 2 or 3 people for each vacancy I had. And I've ended up recruiting for literally every pharmacy I wanted an apprentice for already. Since the apprentices have started, they've all been motivated young people who really want to work in a pharmacy, which I've been very pleased and surprised with, to be honest. And I would urge you all in this times of austerity and funding reductions in pharmacy to look at this very, very carefully. I have found all the apprentices, to come on time, be punctual, really good with IT, and we really need that in pharmacy environment. You can tell them something once, how to use SCR or EPS tracker, and they've got it. They just know how to do it straight away. They're just so useful. I'm pretty good on IT myself, but sometimes if I want to promote something in our pharmacy on our website, they're really good at doing that as well, using all the social media. Some of my staff are not so great, and the apprentices have taken over those roles. As well as saving time and money, you are also molding someone right from day one in your organization. And I've recruited people from other organizations that haven't worked as well because they've got some habits or ways of working that are very different to the way I work in my organization. So that's a really big plus point. And obviously on top of this, you're getting all the courses paid for. So, they're going to be a really good member of staff. I'll put all my apprentices on a 15-month contract, and my aim is to keep them all after that 15 months. And then possibly recruit another apprentice in 15 months' time. That might not work for all of you, but that's, essentially what I am planning on doing. And, I can go on and on about it, but that summarizes essentially, why I've chosen to go down this route. And, I would urge you all to contact Qube. And, and some of you, I've seen who the participants are today, and some of you know me personally. So, you've got my mobile. Just give me a ring and I'll talk you through it. So I've got no issues with that. That's all from me.
Great. Thank you very much, Anil. I'm sure everyone found that very useful, and it's good to hear some first-hand experience and how good the feedback is. And generally, it has been exceptional. So we'll just do some question and answers. Simon, has anything come through?
Yes, we have. Thanks, Anil. We've had some questions in from the audience. Just to say, to encourage people to send any questions in that you might have, or if you wish to raise your hand, we can bring you in on that as well. So the first question we've had, what is the minimum hours per week for an apprentice?
Okay, so there is a little bit of how long's a piece of string. We recommend a minimum of 30 hours a week. A lot of this hinges on what we call the 20% off. So if somebody did 10 hours a week, they would be allowed 2 hours a week to study. And 2 hours a week for study will not allow them to complete the course on time. And if they can't complete the course on time, they wouldn't be allowed to start the course in the first place. So we recommend 30. if you're an organisation that has somebody on 25 hours a week and you're comfortable about supporting them, or you're confident that in their own spare time they might wish to do some extra work, which is not a requirement of the apprenticeship system and should not be, then you could probably get away with that. But we recommend about 30.
Fantastic, thank you, Alistair. Okay, can recently recruited staff be converted into apprentices?
Yes, so there are two answers here. Any member of staff can be put onto an apprenticeship at any level, okay? And certainly I have customers that I work with within the pharmacy sector who are in senior management positions who have become apprentices in higher level qualifications like operations management and team leadership and so on and so forth. And we also work with the Open University on their MBA and Chartered Manager degree. So any employee at any stage can be. The other part of that is if somebody has joined within the last couple of weeks, and I've spoken to somebody today about this, then reasonably you can get them enrolled onto an apprenticeship quickly and get the government incentive payments. But you can't let it go a month because they'll be deemed to be an existing employee, and you wouldn't get away with it. The government wouldn't pay the incentive payments.
Right, thank you. Okay, another question. What happens if the apprentice leaves halfway?
Okay, so there are a couple of, I'll be brief here, there are a couple of answers to this, and it depends on perspective. From the employee's perspective and the student's perspective, they are at liberty to leave whenever they wish, okay, because they're a normal employee. What you actually find with apprentices is they don't, because most apprentices believe that A, the company is funding all of this, and that B, if they do leave, they won't be able to carry on. Okay? Neither of those are actually true, but 95% of apprentices believe that's the case. So if they leave, if they go to another employer who is prepared to support them with the remainder of their course, and they join that business within 2 weeks of leaving their current position, they are allowed to carry on. Why that's important to you as an employer, if somebody comes to you and you'd like to recruit them and they're currently on an apprenticeship program, don't let them take a gap of more than 2 weeks, because what will then happen is they will be deemed not having an employer to support them with their apprenticeship. The apprenticeship will have to stop. If they have learnt more than 30% of the subject matter, they will not be allowed to re-enroll and start again or to continue. It's a cruel twist of fate. It's not necessarily a good thing about apprenticeships. It might even change at some stage, but that is the issue. So they can leave. There's no issue there. If they have left after 90 days, you will, of course, have half of your incentive payments. They're yours and you will not have to return them. If they leave after 360 days, you will have the lot. And even if they don't pass, you will still have that. You will have deemed to have done your bit and got your incentive payment for it.
Thank you, Alistair. Okay. Question, is it possible to tie in the right candidate for a longer period than 15 months, given the investment of time and effort?
Well, yes, it is, because that all comes down to the contract you decide to give. Most people opt for a fixed term contract with extensions, an apprenticeship contract, because it gives them as an employer flexibility. Okay, now that flexibility is it's a twin-edged sword. Of course, it gives the apprentice flexibility as well, but you can give them an apprentice after 12 months or 3 months. You can change their contract if you're happy. You can put them on 3 months notice, and if they agree to it, then why not? They are an employee like any other employee. Most people would see the advantage being to give the employer flexibility, but if you've got somebody you like, you want to keep them, you want to retain them, you can change their contract and you're at liberty to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I've got one more question. Do we look for an apprentice, or is the apprentice recruited by Qube?
It's entirely up to you. We provide this service if you wish to take it. You can use it exclusively, you can run it alongside your own efforts, or you can say, look, we've got somebody. We have customers that have come to us and say, look, I've got the son or daughter of a friend of mine. I want to take them on. I've known this person. Can we put them straight onto a scheme? Yes, you can. You get your incentive payments. It's simply there if you wish to take advantage of it. There's no obligation whatsoever.
Brilliant. Okay, that's all the questions we've had submitted. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions or they want to raise their hands. I don't know if we are finished. We are good for time. So if we want to give people a couple of moments just to see if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, Heenan, I think I'll pass back over to you. Should we give it a few seconds just to see?
Yeah, we can give it a few seconds. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Right, how quickly can we enroll someone?
So if you have somebody in mind and you send me the details over tonight, I'm sure I could find somebody tomorrow or Friday that could do a remote enrollment. So technically, it can be that quick. If you wish us to go and find somebody and do that, we had an instance in Essex not very long ago where somebody applied in the day. They were very good. The details went straight over. The regional manager interviewed them at 5 o'clock at night. By 7 o'clock, they'd made them an offer, and the next morning they were starting. And we didn't even find out until the next day they'd started and we did an enrollment. It can happen that quick. Sometimes you can have a position and you don't get a response for 2 weeks. That's recruitment, but I think it's getting easier now.
Fantastic. Right, so Heenan, shall I pass over to you to close off then?
Yeah, sure. If you do have any other questions, then feel free to pop in then.
So we have got one more question coming in if you've got the time to take it. Is this a free service or do we pay Qube a fee?
So the recruitment is free if the person is under 19 years of old that you decide to take on. If they're over 19, it's a small fee of £250. And actually, if that person leaves within a month or doesn't work out, then we'll just go back and do the whole thing again for free. It's not something we make any money out of. In fact, in the final analysis, it's probably something that costs us to deliver, but it's an important service that a lot of people need. Everything else, you don't pay.
Okay, great. So I think it's obviously a lot of information to digest. So please take the time to read through the brochures on the website. There's also FAQs on the website. And if you do have any other questions, then you can feel free to ask them. Alistair's been great at explaining it in detail.
There's one more question that's popped up. Now, this is interesting. So there's a government scheme where it pays the wages of young people. Okay, so this is something called, and I'll cover it briefly because I've had a number of questions about this. This is something called Kickstart. Okay. Now, I'm not an expert on Kickstart, and you will not find any learning provider who is involved in Kickstart because it's something that the government run directly. It was set up with large businesses in mind, so people who want more than 30 people. If you don't have 30 people, you can look to find a group, get together as a group. Some local authorities now have somebody that champion this and manage these groups, and when you have a group of 30 together, they will present that back to government, and the government will say, okay, fine, we'll get you some people. What you have to take on is people who have not worked for 6 months. So Kickstart is designed to support long-term unemployed people. They won't have worked for 6 months, and you do not have a choice about who you take on. They will simply say, the job centre will come to you and they'll say, right, here's half a dozen people. These are your people for your Kickstart program. We will pay their wages. They will come and work for you for a bit. And that's that. As an alternative to that, there is a traineeship programme, and I'll be very brief about this. So trainees, and this is something that a lot of providers do become involved in, you can take a trainee on. People like Qube will find you a trainee and you can choose that person. Now that person simply will not be working at the moment. Now they might have been made redundant yesterday, but they won't be working. They will join you. They can work for 30 hours a week. You do not pay their wages. Okay, they carry on getting all of their benefits and anything they need on top of that: lunch, uniforms, transport, anything like that. Qube funds that through government funding, and they will come work for you. And this is 7 to 12 weeks on a program. During that time, you will mentor them, you will pay them. They won't be employed by you, and they won't have a contract. And Qube will support them with working practices and CV writing, maths and English, and all the other bits and pieces. At any stage, you can take that person on and put them onto an apprenticeship program. For putting somebody onto that scheme, you will get £1,000. So you don't pay their wages, but you'll get £1,000, and you get to choose the person, and you can put them on as an apprentice anytime you like. And because they haven't been working for you historically, because they're not employed, you can get a further £3,000. So in terms of apprenticeships, it's very much seen as a try before you buy opportunity, although bear in mind, this person will be looking for a job and they will be working for their benefits and nothing more. So trying to keep them for 7 to 12 weeks might be tricky, but after 90 hours, you can put them on as an apprenticeship.
Okay. Alistair, there's one more question. First year, do not pay national insurance. Is this a new offer, or is it because of low salary?
Right, so this is something that was around before the Richie Sunak budget. To my knowledge, it's been around since 2017. No national insurance is due on anybody under the age of 21. Anyway, once you reach 21, as I recall, you pay employers' national insurance. All they have done with apprentices is said up until the age of 25 and £40,000 a year, you will not pay employers' national insurance. So the benefit window there is 21 to 25, as long as they're earning less than £40,000 a year. That's the sweet spot. And on minimum wage, that will save you about £1,140 a year. At 35,000, it saves you, off the top of my head, about £3,500 a year.
All right, so I think we've more or less covered everything there. Yeah, so like I said, if you do have any more questions, feel free to pass them through to us or to directly email Alistair. Once again, thank you very much, Alistair, for being here and giving us, you can clearly see your passion for apprenticeships, which is great. And a big thank you to Anna as well for sharing your experience as well. I think we're coming to 8 o'clock, so we will leave it there as we've answered all the questions. Thank you all for attending. This will be available on demand to watch.
We've got a poll to run as well. Sorry, interrupt you there.
Yeah, we've got one final poll, yeah.
Sorry, I got booted out there for a moment. So yeah, so would you like me to launch the poll?
Yes, please, that'd be good.
So okay, yeah, everybody just again, fingers on your buzzers. Just another poll just after attending this webinar. Just want to know, I am more likely to hire an apprentice in the future. Just your thoughts on that. Fantastic. Okay, about half the audience have sent in their answers. Okay, I think that might be. Give it a couple more seconds. So, anybody else wants to submit their response? No. Okay, so I'll share that so you can all see that. But yeah, very positive result there.
Okay, that's good to see.
Which is fantastic. But that was a lot of information there. Lots of good information. So, sorry, Heenal, back over to you.
Yeah, take the time to digest the information, and thank you all very much for attending. And have a great evening.
Thanks a lot.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.